Hello, Bill and Rob's listeners. It's that time again where we share with you one of our favorite episodes from our current season. Right now, Bill has chosen the topic of sibling rivalry, where we are watching movies by the brothers and sisters of some more famous actors out there. And this week's episode, or the only episode you'll get from this if you're listening in this feed, is on a movie called Death Ring that you definitely want to watch and listen to. But it doesn't matter. You can listen to the podcast before you watch the movie, I think. If you like this episode, we can only keep going with the support of listeners like you. So head to patreon.com/BillAndRobs, ROBS, and pledge your support, because for $5, not only will you get every single episode we put out for every season, you'll get bonus episodes, and starting very soon, maybe even next week, video episodes, all for the low, low price of $5. You don't want to miss it. And I know sometimes it's hard to breach that Patreon paywall, but once you're in, you're in. And it's so easy because you can watch on the website or your phone, and you can also take the RSS feed and put it into any podcast player that you like to use. So you don't necessarily want to listen on Patreon, well, you can listen in Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Spotify, all those things. Do what you like, but please consider supporting us at patreon.com/BillAndRobs. And if that's too long of a URL, you can also go to BillAndRobs.com. BillAndRobs.com. And thank you, Rob Adler, for your fantastic editing skills for all of these. Every penny we get first will be going to Rob Adler. Our immediate goal is 25 patrons, and then 25 more, and then 25 more. So if you haven't gone to patreon.com/BillAndRobs yet, now is the time. Please check it out and enjoy this episode.
Welcome to Bill and Rob's, an excellent adventure. I'm Bill Tilley.
And I'm Rob Schulte. Bill, today is a big day. We have a special guest. We like to bring in one guest per series, and I think we chose the right one for this one. Host of the podcast Struggle Session, Leslie Lee III is here. Welcome, Leslie.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I was just telling Bill and you before we hit recording that we're relatively new to Struggle Session, but I met Jack at BugCon, and we kind of hit it off. And
awesome.
He was on the podcast a few months back, and we just figured, why not close the circle, close the ring, the death ring, by having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I was really excited for Death Ring. I was a little bit disappointed. We'll get into it, but I was really excited going in.
So the whole concept is Bill chooses a series of movies and I choose a series of movies, and we try to put them together as some sort of theme. Sometimes it's an actual franchise, and sometimes it's just this, where we're trying to find siblings of actors, and I love it. Bill, can you give me a little bit of your thoughts on why Death Ring?
Well, I wanted to find a movie that was essentially the Justice League of sibling movies, and I didn't know if it existed. So this whole project is classic me. It's like, let me find something that probably only I'll like, and Rob will hopefully find amusing, and we'll go for it. Plus, it's out there. So I'm going through the IMDb of all of it, and I made a big spreadsheet of them, and I found this one, and this checked several boxes. It doesn't have as many siblings as I would like, but it definitely is a team movie, and after watching it, I am pretty content with my choice.
I have a lot of thoughts as well on this one. I think it might be saying some things it didn't know it was saying, or maybe it really did know it was saying. It's very weird, but it is very VHS. Leslie, did you have any initial thoughts going into this one before I read the back of the box?
I mean, it sounds cool. It looks like a pretty cool movie. The premise is pretty sick. I mean, a classic premise has been done to death. But of course it has, it has the two sons and a brother or something like that. Yeah. But it does have that, but it also has Billy Drago, who is just like elevates anything that he's in. So of course I want to see him playing a mad rich villain, of course. But this one could have been a little bit better.
Yeah. Like this movie screams VHS, which is what I was trying to say. And I usually love that. And part of me does love this, but we'll see what we all feel by the end of this. Bill, should I read the back of the VHS box?
Absolutely. The audience must know the grandness that we are about to launch into. So pull out that MC mic and let us know a little bit about Death Ring from 1992, Robs.
Okay, here we go. It's the roughest manhunt ever when the screen's greatest action stars join forces in this grueling battle to the death. When ex-Special Forces agent Matt Collins, Mike Norris, wins a survivalist competition, he becomes the toughest man alive. A perfect fodder for perverse millionaire Danton Vachs, Billy Drago, whose annual manhunt attracts the most vicious killers in the world. As the diabolical competition begins, Collins and company, Chad McQueen and Don Swayze, must kill their attackers one by one, or be added to their fatal list of prey. So it kind of, I think it oversells the movie a little bit here, but it does tell you exactly what's going on, which I like. It's not like a lot of VHSs where they just tell you how sexy everyone is.
It does. It only slightly lies to you because Chad McQueen, will learn, has his exact part in the manhunt is not what you think it is. But
yeah,
I do like the fact, and it started off easy when they tell you he wins a survivalist competition. And I think we'll talk about that competition a little bit. I'm not sure I would call it a survivalist competition.
Yeah, like training for the Olympics, maybe.
Maybe Wide World of Sports, but not that.
Now, kind of what you were saying, Leslie, there's one major sibling in this, and it's Don Swayze. We saw him earlier in our series when we watched Driving Force, which if you haven't seen Driving Force, I highly recommend it. It's battling tow truck drivers in the future. And there's two sons of famous actors in this movie, Chad and Mike, of course, but only one actor sibling this film. I think we'll review this movie, Bill, when we do our Sins of the Father series.
Oh, geez. I like it. See, that's the thing. I make the mistakes. Rob comes, he just cleans them right up. He brings the steel chair in from ringside and knocks out my problems just right on camera.
Now, do you guys have like a favorite Billy Drago role though?
Ooh.
Wow.
Bill?
See, let me pull.
Yeah, I'm going to pull him up too, because I was just thinking he just feels like he has to be in like every Mortal Kombat movie.
That was going to be my pick too, is Frank Nitti in The Untouchables. He is just straight evil in that movie and so hateable.
Yeah. Yeah. Copperhead, that was kind of fun too. But that was a TV movie.
Just is that guy. He has that perfect, like, he's just short of being a vampire in real life when you look at him. You wouldn't trust him. You don't want to be on an elevator with him. I wonder if he's perfectly nice and he's just like, standing in line at the store and people just running the other way. And he's like, I just wanted to buy milk.
I won't trust him at all. But we're not here for trust or not. Should we just talk about some fun facts about this movie, guys?
Sure.
Oh, yes.
One of my fun facts is that the bar bully is Carl C.R. Folliot, who portrayed The Thing in the unreleased Fantastic Four movie.
Nice.
Leslie, have you guys covered that, or have you seen that movie? Bill had like a bootleg copy of it, so we watched it last year, but it is wild.
Here's the deal. Like, I remember when that was out and they kept talking about a Wizard magazine out. I saw those pictures, but I actually never bothered to track it down and watch it because I feel like I kind of already saw it because I've heard so much about it and read so much about it. But I guess you can just probably find it on YouTube now. I think I need to do that.
I think it's worth a watch. Because it gives you that feeling of like pre-X-Men superhero movies, which were pretty much the best, I think, superhero movies that came out. And I love that Bill had his bootleg. Was it a Blu-ray, Bill?
So I had the original VHS bootleg that I bought at a Comic-Con, which I had for years, which I then traded up to a actual Blu-ray bootleg, which did clean it up a little bit. That wasn't too bad. And I just picked up today the documentary Doomed, the story behind that movie with actual interviews from the actors, because I'm fascinated by it. I love that movie. I say in our review, I actually think it's the best, quote, Fantastic Four movie that has been made.
See, that's why I wanted to ask, because it seems like they just can't get them right. I actually didn't mind seeing the middle two ones with Jessica Alba. I thought they looked like garbage at first. I never watched them, but then I'll see them on FX and I'm like, it's not so bad. It's like the guy from Nip Tuck is Dr. Doom. It's not so bad. The newer one, I thought I would like. I think that was Josh Trank's one. I thought I would like that from the ads. It looked kind of cool, but it was terrible. It was I don't even think I bothered finishing it. It was just really, really bad. Why can they just not get the Fantastic Four right on screen? Is the Fantastic Four just not that good? Does it just not translate outside? Well, not good, but does it not translate at all outside of comics?
I think it is that good. I think it's just the main problem is they want to do the origin and then they want to make the origin be one way or another the bulk of the movie. And if you watch the Corman Fantastic Four, they give you the origin, but then they give you an entire story just like the comic book would.
Yeah, you need an adventure.
You need to have something beyond just the struggle of coming to grips with who you are and then 10 minutes of being okay with it at the end of the movie.
And no multiverse at all.
And no multiverse. That would be good. I'll throw this out there. My Fantastic Four movie would start in the negative zone with them just taking out the trash with Blastar and a bunch of mutants and be like, let's just get to it. Let's tell a great story and roll.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, Bill, do you want to throw a fun fact at us about Death Ring? I know it's no Fantastic Four. But. Oh,
well, it's a great team movie. But yeah, here's a fun fact. So the character of Apache in this movie, of course, he's named Apache, is played by stuntman extraordinaire Henry Kingi. And Henry, famous for a lot of things. My two favorites. He was married to Lindsay Wagner when she was the Bionic Woman, did a bunch of work on that show. He did a lot of stunt work for the Dukes of Hazzard. And he is a person who I have met in real life. And I have brought proof of that.
Oh, wow.
That's me and Henry.
Oh, cool.
At Dukes Fest 2006 in Nashville, Tennessee. He's a wonderful man. He was so much fun. He told such great stories, and to see him get a big part when I'm like, normally I see him, he's on screen, he does something, he's out like Predator 2, but oh no, I'm like, he's a character. And we got to watch him act and do just some real fun stuff. Of course, they saddle him with some, what would be now problematic characterization. Yeah, as you do,
like G.I. Joe level racial.
Yeah. It's that part was hard to watch, but when he got down to business, that was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed that part of it.
Leslie, we didn't want you to have to do homework for this episode, but did you discover any facts about this movie while you were watching it?
No, I did not. I watched it maybe a couple of weeks ago. The sad part is, it's like, okay, it's an action movie, but there's just mostly them talking and sitting around and talking. I wish there was just like a more action. So the movie didn't really strike me. It wasn't so memorable. Some of the one-liners are great though. I really like some of the lines or some of the deliveries. They're fun. They were having fun with it, but it just felt like it could have been more. Could have been something more. It doesn't feel like there's like a lot to sink my teeth into. Like I would put it on at like 2 a.m. in the background, whatever.
Sure.
Like when I was in college, just that kind of movie, like just a step above Skinamax, which actually there is a little bit of Skinamax in this one. Maybe because they used a little bit more, and then it would have been a little bit more. It would have had a little more meat on the bones.
Definitely a bit unbalanced. Like it almost doesn't know what it wants to be, because you do have a couple of horny scenes, but it's like that doesn't quite give me. I don't know. Can I watch this movie with my parents or not?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of stuff your parents are into, I guess. But I'm going to give this movie credit though. When one of its Skinamax scenes is this classic, Chad McQueen comes home, girlfriend wants to have sex, wearing lingerie, wearing not some of her lingerie. You got to, I got to go, babe. And he's not really telling her what's going on. And instead of just kind of huffing and puffing and being your standard, I don't know, twirling my hair girl, she's like, I bought this outfit and it cost like $70. Like that felt so real. It's
not, I didn't get it at a discount.
Yeah. It's like, she's not torqued off it so much that he's got to go. It's like, hey, you don't tell me, I spent money on this. What's going on here?
Well, I do want to say one other thing I found out about this film that I thought was pretty cool was that there on the crew of this film, there was a batting instructor for the batting cage scenes, and the batting instructor for this film was Richard Connell, who wrote The Most Dangerous Game.
That's so funny. I don't know if
that's
a
perk?
He must have laughed every day on set. Yeah. Every day.
It's like, that almost makes me feel like, sure, we'll give you credit as batting instructor, but we really just want you on the set to let us, tell us we're doing okay, please.
I wonder if they gave him a comp of the movie and he watched it all the way to the end, because I almost fell out of my seat at the very end where it says, read the novel.
Oh my God, I missed that.
It's at the very, it says, read the novelization, listen to the soundtrack, eat the popcorn. That's like the last thing you see before the bat shows up. And I was watching, I'm like, there's a novelization of Death Ring?
Of course there is.
Who wrote it? And where can I get a copy?
I got to say, this is off subject, but let me pull this out from my bookshelf real quick. One sec. I found the sequel to E.T. in book form the other day, and this is something we're going to need to cover. Novelizations just make me think how wild they can take the story, so we've got to cover that.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if y'all gentlemen have discussed Heat too, but I started getting into. I had to slow down. I had to stop myself. I was like, "Oh my God, this book is great!" And it's literally getting like praise in literary circles. People said it was the best novel, full stop, of the year. It's so amazing.
It is on my list. I actually have it on my Libby app, and I'm waiting in line to get it from the digital library because I'm.
Oh yeah, it's on Hoopla.
It is
Hoopla.
Okay,
yeah, it's on Hoopla. And Cormac McCarthy, he just passed away the other day. This novel feels like a Cormac McCarthy novel. It really has that similar kind of staccato, diction and language. Is a really like a great book, besides being a prequel and sequel to Heat.
God, I love Heat, and that just makes me feel so good. I was worried about Heat too, and just to hear that,
yeah, it's mind-boggling how good it is. I would have never expected it.
Awesome. Bill, can we do a bonus episode?
We always can do a bonus episode.
Okay, great. Did you have any other fun facts, Bill, before we move on to like the things we enjoyed about the movie?
Yeah, I was looking at the cast list too, and I looked up the filmography for Donegan Smith, who is in this movie. He plays Temple. I can only describe him as the great white collar hunter.
Oh, the guy who gets the choking wire as his weapon?
He gets the garrote. He's kind of like, evil bank guy. And this is his final film credit. So I don't know why. He was a prolific character actor long before this movie, but this is the last one on his IMDb page. And I'm thinking, did he just look around and go, it doesn't get better than this?
Or I'm done.
And he just hangs it up. He's like, nope, there's nowhere to go from here.
Going out on top.
Yeah. I love that he fights in a winter coat in what is kind of the jungle. I'm not quite sure exactly the ecosystem they're in here on this island. But.
Jungle, park, one of those things. Exhibit at the zoo. Not sure.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad to see him go out on top. I want to talk about some things that I liked because this movie is unbalanced, like we said. And we can just go in the same order here. My first thing is that I like that this is another movie where people are getting chased through the woods, but they keep their shirts tucked in the entire time. It's silly to me. I just find it ridiculous. Like we watched, what was the Aaron Norris movie, Bill? Overkill. He's in pleated pants and a belt the whole time, and he never untucks his shirt.
Nope.
It just shows you how far they flick the domino in this movie. They can't quite get to that spot. Maybe
based on that and Overkill and Aaron Norris's pleated pants are just forgetting how tough 90s clothes were, made out of the best chemicals before they all got banned, clearly stuff you're not allowed to have anymore. It was tough. If you're going to get trapped in the woods, you want a big old pair of Dockers with you. That's what it is.
Leslie, you said a couple of things you like, but what's something else that you actually could put on the mantle for this movie?
I like the women in this movie. There are a lot of women in this movie. They get a decent amount of time. They get to do cool stuff. They're all cool, smart, sexy, successful at their jobs. Like that's literally part of the problem of the movie. What our main guy is trying to prove is that he's good enough for his girlfriend who is immensely wealthy. And he just lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. I like all the women. I like, I believe Mrs. Lynn. She's like the last villain in the film, and she gets a pretty fucking cool comeback and death scene. Like, I think this movie gave a fair shot to all the women and cast some really cool, beautiful women, and I think all the acting from them was pretty decent for for a movie like this.
I totally agree, and I have an extended thought on that. I want Bill, you can say yours, but I do, just to add on to yours, Leslie, I think her name's Lauren, is the love interest in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's totally just trying to say hey, shit doesn't matter. I just like you. I make money. Let's just be happy. And he's just I don't know. I gotta ride my bike really fast and then make money doing that. But it's great. Everyone's cool. And those two, the hench women to Billy Jago were just, they looked like Robert Palmer backup dancers, and that could also kick ass. I loved it.
Yeah, any other movie, it would just be Mrs. Lynn, right? But no, you still got the two other ones. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I enjoy that Mrs. Lynn, because I took it as, and you tell me if you guys saw it the same way, when Billy Drago's character basically sends her off to go get Matt Collins, Mike Norris, she kind of stands up and she's like, well, you really need me here to do what I do here. And she's either, she's doing the books is what I saw. She's on a laptop or something. And I'm thinking, wow, she's looking at him going, dude, you really need me to balance the books. I can't be screwing around. You got hench people for that. You really,
you're the actor. I'm the writer. You're the face of this operation, dude, but it falls apart without me here.
Yeah. He then fires a crossbow at her head and she doesn't flinch. And it's kind of like this, he's like, I love you. You're just so awesome. And they're like, okay, fine. I'll go get him.
That's the problem with this movie. The women are so awesome in this world of Death Ring that the men just are killing themselves to prove that they're even worthy to be in their presence.
Yes. And God, and it just goes to show you that you can throw all the shurikens and choke people with wire all you want, but you still aren't nearly as badass because you feel like you need to compete the entire movie to be badass.
It's a movie about inadequacy.
Oh boy, it's becoming real, very, very real. Bill, what did you like about this one?
Well, I liked that everyone in this movie has character, and you can debate. Some of them are better than others, as usual. The boys, especially the Norrises, they can only take it so far, but they have a sense of who they are. They project their character on the screen well. You don't really question who anybody is supposed to be. It's pretty clear, and it's not complicated. A lot of it is simple. And some of the characters have a lot of character, just like Billy Drago. You can't stop looking at him. He's great. And they're all pros. This is another one of those movies that Rob and I have talked about where it says nobody really sets out to make a bad movie 99% of the time. And they clearly did not set out to make a bad movie. They're pros. These people have all acted in various forms one way or the other. It doesn't really seem like there's any newbies. And because they do that and they play their parts well, but they play it in a way that you can relate to, it doesn't come off, they don't come off as schlocky characters. They're not just like the crazy, wacky nut guy that wants to stab everything or the, like the women we've seen, they're just the dimwits on the time and running around in the background. And it works. And it just makes the movie more fun to watch what's there because the characters are easy to watch and follow along. And I really like that it wasn't just out there.
Yeah. An attempted agency through the actors, I think, is at least decently done for sure.
You know what? I think this movie just won me over because I'm just thinking about it. It's like the acting, none of the acting is bad. Everybody's doing their best. Everybody's trying to make this work. And it's like the only thing that's bad about it, really, really bad about it, is kind of the action. And I don't know, maybe I can forgive the movie for that because I like kind of everything else. I even like some of the effects, or I think the effect at the end, the death of when he gets his head chopped off is actually really, really cool and good. And looks like a pretty good horror movie. It's like, I don't know. It's just like, yeah, the plot could have been better. It could have made more sense, but it's not a bad movie to watch, I guess. I didn't have a terrible time watching it. I guess it just wasn't what I expected, but for what it is, kind of okay.
Totally. And I love when that happens because, I left this movie with a little bit of like I don't know. This is kind of weird at points, but like, not even weird, just like, not well thought out in certain aspects, but, it is more fun the more we discuss it. The other thing I just wanted to bring up about Miss Lin, Elizabeth Sung, the character or the actor who plays that character, is apparently or was when she was alive, an incredibly talented acting coach in LA and was very revered. And I think that just totally shows in what you're saying too, Bill, that these people are fucking acting their hearts out. The script is what the script is, but it has its moments and you can see it in the individuals in this, kind of like what you're saying too, Leslie. This is really, it's more than the sum of its parts, I guess.
She was in Joy Luck Club the next year,
Oh yeah.
And when she graduated from Juilliard, these are professionals.
And because they're pros, nobody, I don't think, ever sets out to say, I'm going to embarrass myself as much as I can in this movie. Clearly that's never their intention. So I think this is one of those movies. And Rob and I have discussed this before. Rob's about 11 years younger than me. So I grew up with these kind of movies. So I know what a truly terrible, bad one looks and feels like, where you just wish you could reach across and get the remote before it goes any farther. So and this one, I didn't feel that way about and a lot of it is the actors, they're acting and you're going along with them on the ride. And it was an enjoyable ride to go on with. So,
Bill, what other things stood out to you in the category?
Well, the other thing I liked it, and it's going to sound what you would almost think to be a negative, but I like that the movie plot is simple, but it gives everything enough room to have the side characters and the exchanges and the other little bits, like the bit with Harrison Page as the cop with Chad McQueen doing their thing and him looking for that. You see the fight at the bar and all the other things that happen around. They all mesh. They kind of go right along with everything. Nothing really feels out of place. There aren't any real crazy moments other than the bar fight that does not need to happen, but is required for every movie. That was kind of dumb. And just things like that. But it all makes the movie just feel as real as something like this can feel. It just makes sense. And I hate to watch a movie and out there like, well, that's just dumb. Now I feel dumb for watching it. And it didn't do that. It all worked out and let everybody have a little bit of a time to shine. And you just kind of roll right along. But I will say, to your point, Leslie, looking back on it now, I do see, and I kind of felt this watching it, that it has so much of that it takes away from the action, because those are moments we're not doing things on screen like killing henchmen and stuff like that. But when they do get to it, it's nice. And the movie's compact. Like, the island's only so big. There's only so many people. There's only so many characters to watch. There's only so many resources. You don't have to, it's not what I like watching a Schwarzenegger movie where he kills 1,000 people because he can, It brings it down enough to make a good showing for the level of movie this is. That's how I feel about that.
And it's the perfect amount of time. It's like an hour 39,
Yeah.
It's great. Leslie, before we move on to dislikes, is there anything else that you would want to bring to the table for likes?
Yeah, I think overall the composition is pretty good. I mean, and there's some shots that are actually like fairly good. I think when the twins pour out the wine and they're both on either side, I'm like, wow, it's kind of cool. Someone thought about that shot. Someone took the time to think of something cool in this little 4x3 direct-to-video VHS movie. There's like, and I think there's a middle scene where like a guy is just standing, maybe during one of the torture scenes, one of the torturers like has this light behind him. And it just looks really good. The reverse shot looks crappy, but the shot on the torturer looks really, really nice. And then when the light goes out, like there's some good stuff in
that. That is so true. And I'm also thinking about like the snake blood scene. Like maybe the snake itself, like getting cut isn't the best compositionally, but as they're like passing out the shot glasses of blood, you can get like a different, distinct look of each person before they take it. And that the composition, someone thought about this. They like were proud to be making something.
The men's costumes, I think, are just mostly unfashionable, but the women's costumes are look great. All the women look great at all times. Like Miss Ling has this like little gold jacket that just looks beautiful.
Oh man, and her fist weapon that she has at the end too, like matches her outfit in a way that it's just like, this is just kind of badass. Well, Bill, should we move on to dislikes?
If you can find any.
I'm just going to go with the biggest one that glared out to me. And maybe I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I want to talk about the Mike Norris survival of the fittest training thing, the competition he wins, at the beginning, but also it's called survival of the fittest. And then he's hunted by people all around the globe. And something about that just felt a little gross. And I guess it's just taking from The Most Dangerous Game, obviously. But it could have just been like, I want a triathlon. But the fact that it was called Survival of the Fittest was kind of gross. I don't know. Am I alone here, guys?
No, I don't think you are, because that stood out to me when I watched it too, because it's like, this is an Iron Man competition. I don't know why we're going to just try and cheesily pump up the wording in the background. I don't know. I think they were just trying to amp up the movie at the beginning a little bit to get things stakes raised, or just, of course, cement Mike Norris as a total badass. But yeah, it comes off super weird. It's almost like, plus all the signs are homemade, and it's just not an exciting thing to launch your movie with. I do like the scenes and the things he does. The almost
neon green water bottle on the bicycle was kind of cool, I guess.
I mean, if we do that thing where we rewrite, I almost wish that they hadn't done. I wish they had just shown him doing the things, and then somehow Billy Drago's Vachs character gets a hold of his army profile, and realizes he can get to him because he's there, and they go from there.
Rambo 2's it a little bit.
Absolutely,
yeah.
There's so many ways to show that someone is a cool badass. The last thing I would think is like a triathlon, like just anything, like a tough man fight, like just anything that shows that he's a badass, but he had to leave the army because they wouldn't let him kill people or something like that. Like, so he quit to prove how tough he was by like becoming like doing marathons. Like that just didn't make sense to me. And it's like they spent time and money and got extras for that scene. They could have just taken all those people and put them in a boxing gym or something. And it would have been like made a lot more sense. It could have
been like a mini blood sport at the beginning of this movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing. And they could have put their own little twang on it if they wanted. But
And that would make more sense why he's embarrassed by with his girlfriend, because he's like, oh my God, I'm doing illegal like tough men
Yes.
competitions to make money while she's, the successful whatever she is. That would add that would make it a little bit more sense, because it's like if he's winning marathons, that's pretty like everybody was celebrating him.
he's going to have a sponsorship, right? Like at some point. God. We should time for a remake, guys. We're redoing Death Ring. It's going to happen.
Don't kid about that. I'll do it.
I need your proof of concept by next week, please.
Done.
Bill, did you find anything you disliked?
I will tell you I did. And I just got to say, and Rob will probably back me up on this as a fan of Renegade, whose idea was it to kill Branscombe Richard 5 minutes into his appearance in this movie at dinner?
I know.
What the hell was that all about? He comes on screen.
Maybe they just had him for the day, afternoon.
Probably.
He might have been one of the bigger stars at that point too.
Probably. This should link up with his Renegade time, and he's done a bunch of other stuff. But I was so sad because he's dressed up as like almost like Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran and his character of Bobby Six Killer at the same time, and he's just super intense, and he's talking kind of intensely to everybody. And I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to be the guy that this comes down to with Mike Norris. And no, he just talks wrong to Billy Drago, who decides to kick him to death at dinner.
I do want to see the prequel though. I want to see the prequel where Don Swayze goes to the quicksand and Branscombe Richmond is frustrated that the whole death ring has failed them and they have to do it again.
This death ring is broken.
He does have a great line. I'm at 100 G's and I barely got the sweat off my balls for the trouble.
Wow. I mean, yeah. I'm like this. I want this whole movie. Bring it. Bring me more of this. And no, we get to get rid of him. And my thought was, we get to keep, Great White Collar Hunter, who's 57 years old and just dressed like he stepped out of the Hannibal Smith collection from J. Crew. What the hell is this all about, movie? This is a clear fuck up.
There was another problem with the film, and yes, all the villains are kind of scrawny. It's like you can maybe call them raw-boned, but you can only have one raw-boned guy and still be scared of him. Just a bunch of raw-boned guys is just a crew of skinny guys.
Yeah.
And kind of old, too.
Yeah. It almost feels like this is like the next wave age group of Death Ring. Like, what is the other Death Ring we're not getting?
This is the senior tour of Death Ring.
This is Death Ring 55 and over.
Yeah.
They only hunt during the day, clearly. They show them do that. And, I agree with you, too, because the way they're dressed, they were told what they cost $100,000. Every time they do this, they have to pony that up. That's what Branscombe Richards' character says. And I'm looking around the room and I'm like, all right, Iceman, I don't quite wear. And poor Henry, he's dressed in his standard plaid gingham shirt left over from his Duke's days. And I'm like, you don't look like you have $100,000 for some reason. I don't think lumberjacking makes that much money, but okay, we'll go with that.
I'll just say my other one that I'll bring up is that the whole hunt portion of this movie does look like it's filmed at like a public park. Like it's, I know they can only work with what they can work with, but it is daytime. You never get to see like the traps really being set up. And it's just like steady cam, walk across this river. And now we are in the new scene and fight to fight to fight. And I love seeing the fight scenes, but not enough to it. I wish we got a few more angles there.
I can agree with you on that, Rob. Especially the brightness of it all. And like you said, everybody's not really hurt or damaged in any way. So it was the thing that you watch where it's like, this isn't much of a hunt. This is just kind of more of a chase.
Yeah. Leslie, anything else jump out to you that you disliked about this one?
No. I think that about covers it. It's just like if the action were just like better, meatier, more thoughtful as the other stuff, this would be like a perfectly fine movie. Yeah,
I think like just to add to that, it's fairly well paced, just a little bit lopsided with the action.
Yeah. If we'd had more exchanges like Mike Norris and George Chung's fight on screen, that was a good fight.
Yeah.
The very first one. And
That
kind of set the tone that they never really got back to, which that was definitely a downer for that part of the movie. So I think that agrees with like what Leslie said. That wasn't good fight strategy planning wise for the movie.
Bill, any other dislikes on your notebook there before we just talk about some amusing moments and close up shop?
Yeah, one big one. And I'm praising the movie as usual on one way and then feeling bad about it in another, is that our three leads don't actually share that much screen time.
Yeah.
They are brought in at different points in the movie. Of course, Mike Norris and Chad McQueen are at the beginning. That's not a fight part. And then they get split up. And Don Swayze doesn't even come on screen until like 30 minutes to go in the movie. And they are all part of the big conflict at the end, which is great. But I kind of wanted a fight scene where all three of them are boots on the ground, just kicking their way through a bunch of those weird white jumpsuited middle-aged scrawny dudes that are left over from the Devo convention that they're taking on. And we don't get that. It's cool and they all get to do stuff on and off, but there's not that real big, Avengers Assemble moment that I was kind of hoping to see, at least punching and kicking wise.
Yeah. I think to add to that, one thing I didn't write down, but I just kept coming back to me after I watched it, is there is that element of the satanic panic in this movie when he's like, Skylord's looking for Jessup and all of that. But I kind of wish that was more of a through line in the movie. That's like so funny how everyone was afraid of Dungeons and Dragons at the time. And I don't know, it could have made for, I don't know, another, maybe a sequel even, but it's just a little lost the thread.
Yeah, it feels like they could have just made them, maybe they run the death ring. And they're scary and creepy and all that stuff. It's like, I don't really see the point of having the second bad guy who's pretty creepy on his own. Jessup is kind of a messed up dude, but I think Drago's got him beat. But if you switch him out with Drago and switched out the weird millionaires with the Satanists, that would have been pretty awesome too.
Yeah. We can only dream. Well, before we review this thing, let's just go through some stuff that made us chuckle a little bit. I loved when Mike Norris lands on the island and just kind of rubs dirt on his face. Sort of. He either go full camo or no camo. I don't think you're hiding from anyone with just a couple of stripes there.
The stripes that won't even stick to his face because clearly the makeup won't let it.
Yeah, exactly. Anything make you chuckle, Leslie?
Oh, let's see. Mike Norris's hairline was kind of the first thing that I really noticed. I'm like, I guess that skips a generation because, like, doesn't Chuck still have a full head?
Chuck seems to have a big mop top his whole life, that's for sure. And so did Aaron.
Oh, yeah, their coif was not to be believed. So
it's too bad for old Mike. And Mike's the eldest son, I think, too. So who knows?
And he seems like he's pretty good size. Like Chuck's a small guy. Like he's got size. He's got something. But I do have to say, he could have been in a little bit better shape for this one. He's just not quite, even for the 90s, quite action hero cut.
Yeah. He's not paunchy, but he's kind of got that look of like when you go to a convention now and you see the Power Rangers today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That's
like certainly in shape, healthy, great, but like not movie cut. Like, and it's not like, we're not talking like 20 pounds here. We're talking like 5 and some, dehydration or whatever.
Totally. He's like the best player on the company softball team.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to retcon his hairline problem. I bet he got that because his dad and his uncle constantly did that thing where they put their hand on your forehead while you're a little kid trying to swing at them. And it's just in the Norris house, that's like all you do is you just practice punching all day and it just killed the hair follicles.
Yeah. Hey, that makes too much sense, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, what made you chuckle in this one? Or at least lightly amused?
you'll appreciate this, Rob. Chad McQueen constantly getting knocked out Jim Rockford style in this movie. Just his whole job for the longest time until he flies the helicopter is just to get conked on the melon and drop to the floor. It's just, I think that's almost every scene transition with him involved him getting knocked out and drugged somewhere else.
It's true, but it helped us get through the film.
It did.
And going after that like B storyline that goes almost nowhere was, in some aspects when watching this movie, I was like, I think I want to see this Skylord movie. And I know I said that a little bit earlier, but it was just so amusing to watch him just get bonked on the head and like fail up this whole film. Okay, the only other thing that I'm going to say that was really amusing to me, and it's like, I don't like to like poke too much fun at the films, but obviously that edit at the end was pretty bad after, Mike Norris's girlfriend shoots Miss Ling.
Oh, yes.
And it just does a fade to him now leaving the house and getting in. And he's like, oh, I had to go back for the ring. But I had to actually rewind it. I didn't know what I meant. I was like, wait a second. What, did I black out there for a second? I don't know what's happening here.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's just like he's like with her, and then there's a cut, and she's at the helicopter, and he's like doing some parkour down, which is sadly like the most impressive physical feat he does in the film.
Yes, and then, but I don't know. I guess it also, like, I know it was said earlier in the movie, but I had forgotten, I guess, that like the actual giant ring is the death ring. It's not this themed fight.
Don't feel bad, Rob. I did the same thing. And when they did that weird fade and he ran back after everybody's like, where are you going? For the one brief moment, I thought, is this movie going to do the thing all these movies do? Like, is he going to run inside and set the self-destruct on the house?
Yeah, for
so
some reason.
So that we get our big house explosion that this movie's lacking up to this point. Like, that makes no sense at all. Did he have a missile under there that he can blow up? And I went back for his costume jewelry. I'm like, that's weird.
I kind of hope he proposes to his girlfriend with the death ring.
Oh God, that's amazing.
Yeah. Bill, what amused you? Anything else?
So, my last thing that I'll say that amused me was when Danton Vachs stomps Mr. Cross to death. His big concern is the henchmen start to remove the body by dragging it, and Vachs loses his shit and starts screaming at them that he wants them to carry it so that they don't ruin his floor.
It just got cleaned.
It just got cleaned. And this hit me personally because as someone who just installed a floor, I totally got this moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
This is not something that you want to like repeat. That the grouting alone is murder.
Yeah, you don't want to have to head back to the Lowe's and get them the special order the tile and having to explain why you have to order 20 square feet more tile. You don't want to do that.
Someone's always going to be asking too many questions because they're just like waiting on the order to come through, and it is not healthy for anyone. Bill, no. I feel you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Well, Leslie, before we rate this thing, any other amusing stuff or any final thoughts, something we didn't get to that you want to make sure you talk about on Death Ring?
When the girlfriend is on that altar, all right, she's tied up there very loosely. Like, now I know when they were filming it, she probably had to be up there for like 2 or 3 days because that's kind of a long scene where she's tied up. But like, she could have easily gotten out of that at any point.
Yes. For lunch, probably at one point.
And she's like tough too. It's like established that she's like tough and she would try to get out.
Yeah.
Like she threatens to kill the villain. She's like, you better let me out here if you don't, I will kill you. Not I will kick your ass. I will kill you.
I will fucking kill you. Another notch on the like, all of the women in this movie are badass.
Yes.
Oh man. Well, Bill, would you like to explain our patented rating system?
Absolutely. Back in the day when you'd walk into a VHS store of some kind and these movies might be around, there's usually a big counter or a stand or something up at the front that would say something like 5 nights for $1, where you could rent a movie off of there for 5 nights if you wanted to for $1. So we take our movies and we use that system. So based simply on this movie, not comparing it to anything else or anything else you might have seen before or after, just itself. You've rented Death Ring, you paid your buck, you went home, you watched it. Now, how many of those 5 nights are you going to keep the movie for? That is our rating system. So I think for this one, as we've done so far, I think, Rob, you should go first on this one.
Okay. It's tough because if you would have asked me at the beginning of this episode, I'm like right in your camp, Leslie, like it would have been different. It would have been like, I'm returning it the next morning and I'm wasting another $1 and rolling the dice on another movie. But having talked to you guys about this, I think I'm keeping this for like 3.5 days. I think this is a 3.5 night movie for me. It has just enough in it to make me want to rewatch different scenes. Like I'll watch it through the first night. I'll probably fast forward to some funnier scenes or things that I found hilarious the next day. And then I might watch it again before I return it on the third. So I'll go 3.5. Bill, should you go first and Leslie can bring us home?
Sure, I'll go next. This was tough for me because honestly, of all the movies we've watched so far for this series, this is as close as I've come to giving it the full 5.
Wow.
But that was kind of an emotional thing based on how much fun I had watching it. Now, after talking to you guys, I've had the opposite effect, but not in a bad way. You know, you've brought me down to earth a little bit and made me realize the things that are there that are not quite so good, that could be improved upon. So it's not a perfect movie. But I will say this, I'm going to come close because I'm going to keep this movie for 4 nights for sure. Ooh. And it's going to be a struggle. I would probably take it back in the afternoon the next day, but I'm not going to get in a full watch. I know me. That's just not how it's going to work. So I'm definitely going to power through this. I would have watched it again last night. I had such a good time because, like I said before, I've seen the movies of these that are bad, and I watched it with the eyes of, I know what these movies usually give me, and they're not all that great. And this movie gave me more than that. It did a better job, and I was appreciative of it. And I liked most of the things I saw on screen. It's got some warts, but those warts are not enough for me to give it less than a 4-night watch, to the point where I can even say I will now hold up, I own this movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's how much I like it post rating system. I will definitely be carrying through on my remark to watch this movie again at some point.
Wow. 4 nights, 1 morning.
It's a great action movie of its kind. And indeed, I will say, I do think this is the Justice League of this series. It's as close as we're going to get until we find something else. And I'm more than willing to find something else. I hope we do. But for now, this one's going to do.
Awesome. Leslie, how about you?
All right. So I actually got to give this 2 different ratings, depending on the situation. Because you really like painted a picture for me with this rating system, so that I can't really give one definitive one. If I'm living, if right now in my situation, living with my partner, probably a 3-nighter. I probably cut it off halfway through the first night. I think about taking it back the next morning, but then I sleep on it, and then I keep it, finish it, and maybe watch it again before I take it back that third night. But if it was any point in my life where I was living with my brother, it's a full 5-nighter because I'm going to wait to make sure that he sees it too.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be 5 nights actually if I was living with my brother. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Also, if this is back when my brother was with us, I would have totally done the same thing. That is so true. Well, Leslie, thanks for joining us. Would you like to tell people about Struggle Session or anything else you'd like to plug at this moment?
Yeah, just check us out on Struggle Session, patreon.com/struggle session, or sesh.plus or sesh.show. We are podcast about the crossover between politics and movies. My co-host is Gentleman Jack Allison. We have been a little bit slow lately because I've been dealing with long COVID, but we're looking to pick things a little bit back up in summer. I appreciate everyone's support, and I've gotten a lot of great messages of support by that. But so thank you for anybody who sent me one of those. I really appreciate it, and I'm just happy I got to see Death Ring.
Awesome. Yeah. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I know it can't be easy sometimes, and we're here to support in any way possible as well. And I'll tell you, Bill and I were talking about your struggle session episode on the Batman recently.
Oh,
that was a fun listen. That's for sure.
Oh, tell me what you thought about it, if you don't mind.
Bill.
It was kind of like this. I saw that movie in the theater, and I liked the movie theater experience of watching it because also, after coming out of lockdowns and all that stuff, it was nice to get back in the movie theaters. And it was a version of Batman that, once again, I saw parts that I liked. I saw parts that were wasted opportunity. But when you guys did your episode and really got into the story elements of what was wrong with it, it all came rushing back to me because that's what I do now. I've seen so many things. I'm old enough that it's really the story is what sells me. You can't really win me over with gloss and glitz. And that movie's got problems. It's got a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And it is not a detective movie. It is not Batman as a detective. That is a bullshit.
Nope.
Whoever came up with that idea. It's just this weird paint by numbers kind of thing that rolls along and then really almost feels like there's not a lot of point to any of it when you get to the end of it. Like nobody's really doing anything because they want to do it or need to do it. Things just happen to characters, and Batman just kind of, he doesn't figure anything out. He has stuff pointed out to him. So I don't know.
Oh, thank you so much. We both went and looked. Jack was really excited for it. He thought that movie was going to be the shit. And then I was actually afraid to text him because I disliked that movie so much. I came out and was like, oh, that is literally the worst Batman movie. Like literally the worst one. And he texted me and he was like, oh yeah, it's the same. He thought it was the worst Batman movie, which neither of us even thought was a remote possibility, but I would much rather rewatch Batman and Robin. Though maybe the Batman in a few years, once people are stopped talking about how great the cinematography is and how it should have won an Oscar, maybe it will start feeling a little bit more camp because that ending where he's like cuts the electric wire for no reason whatsoever, and he screams it's a lot funnier the more I watch it, and the stuff about the Riddler is funnier the more I see it. So maybe there may be a resurgence of the Batman, and really if the sequel is like funny, that might retroactively make the first one a bit better.
Could be. I actually picked up, listening to your descriptions of it, kind of some Rian Johnson Knives Out vibes now that I look back on it, because it's like the movie will do things and then you think one way about it and like, oh, here's this little bit that you didn't see that was off to the side. And I'm like, now you're just messing with me, movie. It's just not the way to be. That man is smart. He has to be or he'd be dead. Yeah, he can't walk through a hail of 50 caliber machine gun bullets. That's not who he, like, it's just a bunch of things.
That was the part of the movie. I was like, you're trying to make this Seven, but he's also the Terminator. Like, you just have to pick one. And like, people would be happy with either. Like, it tries to get some of the vibes of like the Arkham games, but those Arkham games like have like a perfect tone, a perfect mix of the otherworldly and this kind of, dark noirish style of Batman. It's like, that's the perfect vibe. Like, what that movie needed to be is like less trying to be like, like a gangster movie or or like it has airs of being like a Scorsese movie sometimes or a Fincher film. Like, it should have been more like a live action cartoon. They should have had Killer Croc in it. They should have had Mr. Freeze in it. Like, if it went more in that direction, then we would forgive like the silliness of the mysteries that are going on.
Yeah, if you could have taken some of the intentions of that movie and some of the look of it and given a good Ra's al Ghul storyline, like to take that out of the Nolan movie, you could have had something there because there was some stuff to work with. There were times it looked good, but for the most part, it's just 3 long hours of like, dude, we all figured this out a while ago. Let's just move on.
And I had one quick question for you, Leslie. Well, maybe it's quick, but I don't want to keep you too long. It feels like you're a big wrestling fan, and it feels like wrestling has kind of getting a resurgence lately, or maybe it's just that more podcasts are having wrestlers on, and I'm hearing that. But I've never been big into wrestling. Do you have a recommendation of what someone should do if they wanted to start getting into wrestling?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
I'm sorry.
Because especially for right now, because at this very, very particular moment, right? There's a lot of hype, a lot of talk about wrestling. WWE just got, didn't get sold, it merged with UFC.
Yeah.
I think though, right now, and a lot of people are talking about AEW, this new competitor to WWE, lots of buzz, lots of hype. But I think if I'm being honest right now, I think professional wrestling creatively might be worse in the mainstream than it has ever been.
Wow.
Because it's complete. Because for me,
sure.
Pro wrestling has a definition, and it's simulated combat. Everyone knows it's not a real fight. That's fine. But the magic trick of wrestling is being able to convince a live audience that knows it's a work, that you're actually having real fights and real conflicts right there in the ring. It's a magic trick, literally a magic trick. And wrestlers used to pull that off consistently. And in the era of Vince McMahon, we don't have that anymore. There is no magic trick. The matches are, more like live action stunt shows a lot of time. There's no real attempt to have a verisimilitude to the matches, to the storylines. It's just not really following the definition of pro wrestling. It's entertainment. It's sports entertainment, perhaps, but it's not really the type of wrestling that you really want to see. And it's gone so far that I don't know if I can really recommend with my whole heart getting into wrestling, because wrestling has broken my heart so much, too much. I don't do it to yourself. If anything, I would say watch a couple of old Japanese wrestling matches every so often. I think that's, you'll have a good time. You'll kind of get the idea of like what wrestling is at its best, but you'll also kind of be overwhelmed and kind of go on with your life at a certain point, which is for the best when it comes to professional wrestling.
Well, I appreciate that brutal honesty, because I would hate to have gone in there and expected something that I wasn't going to get, for sure.
Yeah. Leslie, I have 2 quick thoughts I just want to get your opinion on before we break off on that. Do you think, I know I do, that the worst thing that happened to the WWE and Vince McMahon was when he finally lost all his meaningful competition, when WCW went down and he had nobody to compete with anymore except themselves and his own ego?
Yeah, that was the day professional wrestling officially died. Not that WCW towards the end was great, but the worst part about it was that they hired the WWE's writers to start writing their show.
Right.
Once Vince McMahon's vision started taking over wrestling, professional wrestling, essentially what it was kind of died. He was not a fan. He was not necessarily a fan of professional wrestling. He didn't watch other companies. He had a vision for what he wanted to see. He never called it what he did wrestling. He hated the word. He hated professional wrestling. He thought that was something hokey. He wanted to do something that was more like a live action, show, a circus that could go anywhere, could have, deaths and rapes and all this other creepy stuff. Well, we don't need to get into what a complete scumbag he is in real life, but as far as his creative vision of wrestling, I think some people are starting to notice is like, he actually is not the guy who brought wrestling to the mainstream. He's the guy who killed wrestling and just remade it in his own image, to the point where even a competition like AEW more or less looks like McMahon's vision of professional wrestling more so than more so than the original vision, which you would see in the territories and NWA.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine what it's going to be like for the people that have to work with him now that he is not the sole owner of the company? Because I think it's going to be catastrophically difficult for anybody trying to deal with him.
Yeah, they made him chairman for life. Literally, he is chairman for life of WWE. That's straight from Ari Emanuel. There was so much speculation, ridiculous at the time, that once WWE gets sold, whoever they're selling it to is going to get rid of McMahon. It was the exact opposite. It was being sold by McMahon to ensure that he would never, ever be out of power until the day he dies. That was the reason he sold it right now.
Oh my God.
I'm just thinking of all the times, you work for a company and they give you the talk like, oh my God, we got new owners. And you're like, oh no, but we're keeping the old owners on. Oh no.
Yes. Yeah. It's really sick. And like, it's so shocking because so he had the allegations, of sexual assault. He has a total of 4. It was one that resurfaced and one new one that came out that kind of pushed him into his retirement, which more or less was kind of fake the whole time. But what really shocks me and disgusts me is that, he didn't even say goodbye. He didn't say goodbye to the WWE on this. He just made a tweet saying, now it's time for me to retire. He was trying to hold on. He had done a couple of appearances. Everybody chanted, thank you, Vince. But then as the allegations kept coming out, he decided to retire. His first time making a public appearance or talking anywhere was on goddamn CNBC, where they were celebrating the merger. How is that possible? A man has been accused of sexual assault with 2 new allegations coming out. He retires. His first time coming back, he's barely even asked about it. They just talk about what a great, wonderful merger that is sick. That is so incredibly sick.
So
you
gross.
Might as well bring back Harvey Weinstein or Bill Cosby. The same guys. They are the same guys. And it's only because it's wrestling, and some of his victims were wrestlers, and people think wrestlers aren't human and they don't care what happens to them or what happens in wrestling, which is just extremely sad and frustrating. I actually was pitching a podcast to do about, Vince McMahon, and I couldn't find anybody to do because either they didn't care about wrestling or they had a media deal with WWE at some point. So it's sick, and he's more powerful than ever. They're shopping the TV rights now, and hate to see the bad guys win.
No kidding. Well, this just cements even further that I'll just go watch some of those Japanese wrestling matches that you suggested for sure.
Probably better off. If you really want a throwback, you can always watch an old one on YouTube someday. And see how much different things looked.
Well, and there also is the indie scene. Lots of great indie wrestlers. Actually, you know what? I take back the whole rant. I have been so caught up in the mainstream, I forgot about the indie. Go to your local indie shows. Go to your local indie show. They're fun. Live. Go to a live local indie show. That's what you do at wrestling. Just do nothing but that.
Hell yeah. Okay. I will definitely check that out. I know that they happen out here. I live out in the middle of the desert. I know they have them. So I'm going to do that. Thanks. Well, we've kept you long enough. I want to just say thank you for joining us, and everyone go check out Struggle Session. Pledge to their Patreon. You like our Patreon, patreon.com/Bill and Robs. You will definitely enjoy Leslie's at Struggle Session. Thank you, Rob Adler, for editing this episode, and congratulations on getting hitched. I know by the time you edit this episode, it'll be late. And thank you, Bill, for joining me once again. Of course, we join each other.
Yeah, we do this together. We're a match set.
Of course.
We're like the Legion of Doom when it comes to movie reviews.
All right, and we will see everyone else next time on Bill and Rob's In Excellent Adventure.